Korach confronts Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, Ki chol ha'eda kilam kedoshim b'soicham Hashem, imadua tisnasi al kahal Hashem. Everybody in Klal Yisrael is holy. Everybody in Klal Yisrael has a neshama, a chelik elikah mima'al, and they have direct access to the ultimate reality, to the ultimate truth. They're bonim lamokan. So he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Madua tisnasi al kahal Hashem, why are you in charge of other people? Why are you controlling other people? And Korach is called a pikach. Korach was, a pikach is called somebody who is wise, who can see. It's like a lashon of open. Somebody has open eyes. Korach could see. Korach understood. Korach was minoisei oren, one of the Levim that was carrying the oren Eidos that was holding the luchos. And so Korach was somebody who understood what is being discussed. He understood how serious it is, the person that he is confronting, the situation that he's creating. He's creating conflict at the very core of reality, at the very core of the place that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself chose as his home. Within the nation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose, he's creating conflict. He's creating the ultimate evil. So how could he think that he's going to get away with that? Only because he had a very strong argument. He had the truth on his side. What is the truth? Ki chol ha'eda kilam kedoshim. Klal Yisrael, they're all holy. Every single one of them has the potential to be a prophet. So therefore, he's coming with a true argument. He's coming with reality. And he's confronting Moshe Rabbeinu. What does Moshe Rabbeinu say? V'anachnu mo. I didn't decide that this needs to happen this way. Reality itself played out this way. This is the way it needs to happen because it happened this way. The one who decided what happens, he's the one that decided that it should happen this way. And therefore, just like we can't argue with the planets that he created and their orbits and the way that they need to unfold and the way that our seasons function and the way that the day and the night travel and we constantly are changing the atmosphere. All these things we can't argue with because we know that it's a wisdom beyond us that created it this way, that needs it to be this way. It knows why. It knows why it created the way that it created, and the proof is that it works. The proof is that we can sit here and talk. And so, the same way, we can't ask, why did he choose Moshe Rabbeinu? Why did he choose to do it this way? We know that Judaism, we know that the Torah was given to us in order to allow for people to have a direct relationship with the Creator. What does it mean to have a direct relationship with the Creator? To have a direct relationship with the Creator means that your life will not be dominated by any other human being or by any other cause or idea or force or power or symbol or anything else. You're not going to serve anything else. You're going to have a direct relationship with the Creator, meaning what He created you for, that's what you're going to experience and nothing else. Everything else that you experience is a form of avodah zarah. It means that you are, instead of serving the original purpose, instead of serving the one that created you, you've been manipulated into believing something else, into serving something else, into causing your energy to be spent in an area that's not really in your best interest. And so the reason that Avraham Avinu was against the Migdal Bavel, the reason that he was against what they were trying to do when they came together to build the tower, is that he said, we shouldn't have humanity built in a way that there's a hierarchy, in the way that one controls the other. Because if humanity is going to control each other, it's going to mean that they're not going to have direct access to their Creator. They're not going to have direct access to the wisdom that created them. They're not going to have a direct experience. Their life is going to be controlled by those who are in charge of them. And that means that their experience is going to be limited to the human imagination, to whatever the one in charge of them imagines is right. And that already is wrong. And so Avraham Avinu wanted to have a future for his children where they won't be dominated by anything else, where they will be able to experience life in the way that nature designed it to be experienced, without any manipulation, without any interpretation that is not pure, that is not real, that is not true. And this is the purpose of Lashon HaKodesh. Lashon HaKodesh is the ability to create a society, to create an understanding that is creating individuals that can fit into a collective, creating a collective that can contain the individuals. So you're going to have the klal and the prat, and the prat and the klal, because that's what's necessary. That's human nature. So the Torah comes to teach us how we're going to create a situation where nobody has to be in charge of anybody else, where nobody's control of everybody and of anybody else. And so Korach comes and says, Moshe Rabbeinu, you say that you represent the Creator. You're taking us to freedom. You took us out of Mitzrayim. What was in Mitzrayim? What was wrong? That we were avodim, that we were slaves, that we were serving somebody else. And now what do? Now we're serving you. You decide, then we have to follow. So this is not, it can be. It can be that you represent the Creator. This was what Korach was timing, and that's why he has the confidence to go up against everything that they saw, everything that just happened, all the miracles. Korach goes up against it, and not only does he go up against it, so many of Klal Yisrael follow him. Nobody knows who's right. Nobody knows what's going on. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming and telling a message. He's telling us a message from the Creator. What does the Creator say? The Creator says you got to come out of slavery. You can't serve other people. They only serve me. And then suddenly we find ourselves serving. Suddenly there's somebody else between us. But when did this happen? It happened by the Egel. By the Egel, Klal Yisrael showed that they're not ready for a direct relationship. As soon as Moshe Rabbeinu disappeared, Klal Yisrael lost their way. And so now, Klal Yisrael shows that they don't have the intelligence to handle a direct relationship. They don't understand what they're interacting with. They don't understand who is giving them life. They still cherish something else more than life itself. The one who's giving them life, they don't realize, they don't appreciate. The one who's giving them confirmation, the one who's giving them confidence, that's the one that they're relying on. So they don't have the intelligence, they don't understand. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu, he has to be in charge. He has to teach them. If he won't be there to teach them, it won't happen. That's what the ego proves. And so therefore when Korach comes, and Korach says, Madia tisnas al kal Hashem, why are you in charge? Why do you think yourself higher than everybody else? Moshe Rabbeinu says, this is not me. This is reality speaking. V'anachnu mo. I'm see-through. I'm doing what's best in each scenario. In this scenario, this is what's best. There's no other option. Klal Yisrael is not ready for more. But what is the goal? The goal is that everybody will have a direct relationship. That nobody will have to teach anybody. Because what we're trying to accomplish over here is simply to return people to their original nature. We're not trying to do anything miraculous. We're simply trying to gain access to the real nature of what it means to be human. That's it. And once that happens, there's no teaching necessary. Children will understand because their parents will understand and their teachers will understand, and therefore they will know. Just like they copy now, and they copy the wrong behaviors, they'll copy then, but they'll copy the right behaviors. And so Korach is coming here to argue that idealistically, life shouldn't be this way. Idealistically, this is not what would have been best. But Moshe Rabbeinu says, you're right, idealistically it's not. I would have preferred different also. But that's not what's available. What is available? How can we work with what's at hand? How can we work with this reality in order to make it better? And that's the way we have to work it. That's what we have to deal with. And so Klal Yisrael has a hierarchy. Klal Yisrael has Sorry Alofim, Sorry Meir, Sorry Chamishim. They have, Reb Tzodok says, why does the parsha of the Sorim, of having these Sorim, one on top of the other, come dafke from Yisroi? It's such an important part of giving over the Torah, such an important part of creating that structure that's going to feed the information to Klal Yisrael. So why does it have to come through Yisroi? Because Baruch Hu couldn't tell Moshe that this is necessary. And so Reb Tzodok says because it's not within the Yiddish neshama to have a hierarchy. A Yiddish neshama wouldn't think that way. But because Klal Yisrael wasn't ready, because Klal Yisrael still needed that training, so Klal Yisrael had to learn from a goy how to do that structure in order to teach, in order to train. But mitzat Klal Yisrael, mitzat their nature, it's not within their nature to listen to an authority. Because Kili b'nei Yisrael avodim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created you in your imperfect form. If we would have the right midas, we wouldn't need an authority. We need an authority because we're not in control of ourselves, because we can't keep quiet. So even what we do is compulsive, is not proper, is not accurate to the way that we really are. And then we regret, and then we double think. But that's because we're not pure. But were we pure, we wouldn't need authority. We don't need to control each other. We don't need to tell each other what to do. We each have our own drive. We each have our own heart and our own brain that's driving us to do what's right. That's driving us to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really wants. That's within our nature. That's why He created us this way. He wouldn't create us to want anything else. That wouldn't be fair. If He created us to want something different and then He gives us the Torah and says, you go be something else, that wouldn't be right. So the Torah is telling us what we want to be naturally. Why don't we know it? Why do we need the Torah to teach us? Because we've seen other people do other things. We've seen people with difficult midos and we've emulated them, and now we don't know anymore what's right and what's wrong. So now the Torah comes to remind us what's right. The Torah comes to remind us what's real. So that we can be who we originally were designed to be. And so the Arizal says, when Mashiach comes, Korach will be the Kohen Gadol. Korach will be right. That's why Tzadik Katamar Yifrach, the last letters, Tzadik is Kuf, Katamar is Reish, Yifrach is Ches. The last letters is Korach. The Tzadik is gonna come grow because he was right, but he wasn't saying it in the right time. He wasn't applying that ideal view to the people that could actually handle it. But the truth is such. The truth is that the truth is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to be a Mamleches Kahanim v'Goy Kodesh. If we were all a Mamleches Kahanim v'Goy Kodesh, then we could all do the Ketores. Then we could all be at that level. Then we could all have access to the ultimate truth. But this wasn't yet the reality. This wasn't yet where the people were up to. And therefore the message had to be delivered in a way of authority, in a way that relates back to the kishuv that was used in Mitzrayim. What was Paro's power over the people? The power of authority. The power that the human being has to intimidate other human beings, to control other human beings. It's a psychic power. It's a power that we have spiritually. Some people have it more than others. Some people use it more than others. Some people use it in the right way. Some people use it in the wrong way. But it's a power that we have, a spiritual force, a presence that makes other people feel intimidated to contradict us, to say something that's different than what we think. And the more authority we have and the more power we have over other people, the more they get intimidated by our opinions and our beliefs and our way of interacting with life. So this power was used in Egypt in order to create a hierarchy that ran the entire country. This power is still being used, but amongst other powers, money is being used even more. But even interactions with money come back to this power of intimidation. So even there we have that power of human beings to control each other, human beings to cause each other to behave certain ways, to feel certain ways, to have certain thoughts. This affects the very balance of the chemicals in our brain. This is the reality that we live on. This is the real reality. This is the reality that the Creator created originally to allow us to interact. But sometimes we use them in healthy ways, sometimes we use them to build, and sometimes we use them in ways that are damaging, in ways that are causing harm. And so, the ultimate reality, the ultimate truth, is that a human being should not be controlled in any way, shape, or form. There's no human being that has any right to control any other human being, period. Not even a parent for a child. The parent is there to direct the child, to assist the child, to guide a child. But there is no room for control. The human spirit, if it's controlled, it loses its vibration. It loses its will for life. It loses its drive. And so, Korach was right. Within their hearts is the ultimate nature, is the ultimate truth. That's the truth. That's reality. But at that time, humanity wasn't ready for it. At that time, Klal Yisrael wasn't ready for it. But hopefully at this time, Klal Yisrael has been through many different events. Klal Yisrael has been through many different catastrophes. Klal Yisrael has learned many lessons. Hopefully at this time, we are ready for it, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring us the Gula Shleima of Meher B'Yameinu.
Meaning, like, Moshe was emes till a certain point, and then Korach is emes. Can we believe and be confident in ourselves that we don't need, meaning we can move on from the Moshe way of living to the Korach way of living?
It's not a contradiction in that sense, because Korach also agreed that there is a Torah. The question was, how should we learn Torah? Should we learn Torah directly from reality, or do we learn Torah from other people? And that depends on a person's level. If all the people can be in that level where they can learn directly, that would be the best. That's originally what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Klal Yisrael to receive all the 10 commandments directly from him, and then they're going to have that relationship permanently. But Klal Yisrael wasn't ready for such an intimate relationship yet. So the question is today, are people ready for such an intimate relationship? Because there's a right and wrong over here. Just because we think that we're ready, and then we don't really understand the message in the first place, then we're definitely not ready. It's only if we understood the message, it's only if we've been transformed from within, then we can even have the question, are we there? Are we in such a place where we have to listen to the internal messages more than to the external messages? And that's a question that's brought in the Svarim. In Ishbitz Torah especially, they speak about this, that there is a place where a person has to abandon everything and follow the truth, follow his heart. But how does one know that he's arrived in that place? So in the Ishbitz Svarim, it seems like sometimes a person could know. And Reb Tzodok says a person always has to doubt himself. He could never know. So I guess even somebody has to come to such a deep realization that even what they say doesn't matter anymore. And it has to be from a serious place, from an authentic place, not from a place of silliness, of kalas roish, of thinking who cares, because then he could lose everything. He could lose access to everything that he's worked for. So it has to be authentic. A person has to be true with his heart. What does he really believe about reality? What is the desire of his creator? Why did he create him? And that has to drive his behavior. That's always what's driving our behavior. We cover it with different justifications and different stories, but we choose which halachas to focus on, we choose which halachas to learn, we choose which halachas to sort of ignore, we choose which people we listen to, which rabbis we ask. So at the end of the day, it's really our heart that's making all these decisions. So we really have to align the heart to be authentic with the truth, to be authentic with what's real. And that's the only guide we're ever going to have. That's the only guide we ever could have. That's how we were designed by the Creator, that our heart is the one that drives us. But to the extent that it's going to be authentic, it's going to drive us to real places. To the extent that we're going to fool ourselves, it's just going to drive us in circles. We're not going to be going nowhere. And the proof that we're doing things right is that the heart opens up, but emotionally we start feeling more and more connected to life and to the people and to reality. Then we know that we're coming back from the illusion that we've built. But if we continue in the same circles, then it's just trading one illusion for another illusion, such an illusion and such an illusion, but we're not really hitting reality. We're not getting closer to the truth. Our heart's not opening up. We're not getting more invested. So the quality of life is not getting higher, so we're not getting more access to the experience. And that's the goal, to live life while you're still in your body, so that you can do something here that's meaningful, so that you can make a difference for yourself, so that afterwards you look back and you say, wow, okay, if I did that, it's all worth it. You know, okay, that makes it right. Because it's a big deal what we're doing over here. It's a big mission. It's not simple, and there's a lot of suffering involved. So we want to sort of get it right. We want to sort of do something that's meaningful. We want to realize afterwards that we didn't completely lose our minds here. So that's why it's so important to be authentic. It's so important to be real.
In a world that needs the Moshe, where the generation isn't ready,
yes,
for the correct way of life,
yeah,
the individuals that can handle it still can't move into that space, because there's still someone controlling, there's still someone leading, there's still someone.
If the generation is of that level, like it was in the time of Moshe, then there is the availability of going to that place also. Because Moshe, like you see, he gave access to prophecy to whoever wanted. He didn't hold it as his personal power, and that nobody should have access to it. He said if it was up to him, then everybody would be at his level.
It's not up to him.
It wasn't up to him because the people were not up to there. But those who were, they gained access. Those who were, they had access to it.
They still need to follow Moshe, because otherwise...
They didn't, on their personal level, they didn't. Like they said, they started saying nevuah that wasn't even in line with Moshe. It wasn't good for Moshe. Shibbenin wanted to kill them, right? So they were already their own people. Obviously, when it comes to the collective, we always have to follow leadership. But in their hearts, their relationship with the Creator was direct. They didn't need any more an intermediary. That's the nature of prophecy. And
you still have to leave yourself within the compound.
Within the collective.
Of the collective.
The collective, for these people, the collective behavior is not what drives their life. It's their internal experience that drives their reality. The collective is just something that they go along with in order to maintain order. And that's the way we should always be. Even when everybody is going to have their direct connection, there's still going to be some form of a collective where we're going to interact with each other. And the only right thing to do is to make it work as best we can. You know, that over there it doesn't apply.
But you need a leader in order to achieve something like that.
And that's fine. Mashiach is going to be a king. But it's not going to be a king that controls your life or controls your views and your beliefs. It's going to be a king that's keeping order so that you can have the most freedom. So it's a different perspective. It's a different way of looking at a human spirit. A human spirit needs to have liberty. That's what makes it the most successful, makes it vibrant. So it's a necessity ultimately. But when there's no intelligence, you can't provide that necessity. If you provide that necessity, it just makes matters worse. So it's the whole Torah, the purpose is building intelligence to a level where we can provide complete liberty, where we can have chayres. That's why originally when the lichus was given, it says, I'll take your choros al lichos erecheres, that through the lichos, the first lichos, they received complete freedom. And after the egel, they lost that freedom. So that freedom will be found again. That freedom is our nature. That freedom is the only real way to live. But after the egel, we couldn't have access to that anymore. So then we got a dumbed down version. We got a version that makes us toil, that makes us work for authority, so that we can ultimately be intelligent enough to not need authority, to have a direct link to the truth.
The egel being the cause, Yeshua, like he attached to Moshe. He wasn't even with the egel part. He wasn't collective. He didn't replace Moshe. He just, meaning if you have to pick someone that's going to lead, let it be the least ego, the most ma. But Yeshua was attached before the egel. I'm wondering, like, is this like because it's a big concept, like having to find someone or something to connect you. And it's like, I guess it has to lead you till eventually it's not needed.
There's always, so even when you're in that form of a collective where there's leadership and there's authority, at the end of the day, your relationship is a direct relationship because that's the nature of life. That leader is not going to die with you. That leader is not going to follow your spirit where you need him to go. You're going to go there alone. So that's your relationship regardless. The question is, how we're going to present the relationship to the people in general, to the children, to the society, to the culture. What is it going to mean? So when there's a situation where people don't have the intelligence, we have to provide within the culture an importance for the leaders. Otherwise, the people won't listen to them, and then they're going to lose access to wisdom. They're going to lose access to truth. They're just going to run off on their superstitions and their opinions, and they're going to get lost. So there needs to be within there some type of a importance within the culture for the leadership and for the wise, so that people listen, so the order can be maintained. Eventually, if people are wise enough, then you don't need to emphasize that anymore. You don't need the middlemen. You can go directly with the truth, because people will respect the truth if they can understand it. If a person understands that it's really within his best interest to keep all the mitzvahs, then you don't need any other authority to tell him that. He's going to do it because it's best. If he doesn't understand it's best, if he doesn't even understand what his soul is, so then why would he do it if you don't have some type of authority figure making him do it? If you don't have some type of a way of enforcing that necessity.
You also need authority to say what it is.
Exactly.
We pray for the welfare of the government, so it should keep people in order.
But it's not only to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do, it's to make sure that you know about it. What does what you're supposed to do mean? You need that authority to give that explanation.
To give meaning, hopefully. Not all authorities give meaning.
And how do you make sure that the authority is
qualified?
Is qualified.
Oh.
So those are legitimate issues that history has proven that are not always dealt with, are not always covered. Some authorities were absolutely not qualified if you look at their behavior, but that's just life. That's just the nature of dealing with humanity. Humanity is.
How do you know?
How do you know what?
As an individual, how do you know that the authority is qualified?
You have
Can there be one authority?
You have a natural GPS, which is your heart, that tells you what's acceptable to you. Meaning that if something is true and you feel that it's right, then it'll have a certain feeling. It will go into a certain place where it will give you rest. It will give you peace of mind. It will give you direction. So those are indications that something inside of your nature agrees with what's being said. If something inside of you gets angry with what's being said, it could be it's your nature that's getting upset, or it could be your conditioning that's getting upset. It could be that you were told so many times the opposite that now you're getting upset. So these things have to get worked out. But ultimately, inside of you, there's a way that you are, and you're only that way. And so you have to find information that make you discover what that way is. And the people that can give you access to that, they're as far as they know more than you about you, they're an authority over you. Once you know as much as them about you, then they're no longer an authority. Then you go to the ultimate authority.
So then there can't be one authority at the end of the day, because everyone is different.
No, but there were people who knew about humanity in general more than anybody else, and that made them authorities. That made them wiser about people's nature than most of the others. And so to that degree, if somebody wanted to understand himself, if somebody wanted to understand his experience better, if somebody wanted to make more of his life, he would go to this authority and he would ask him how to do it. So to the extent that people understand more about human nature than others, to that degree, they're authorities. That's what Pasuk says about the.
It has to trickle down.
That's what Pasuk says about the Torah. Be melochem yamlochi. That through the Torah, with this, kings will rule, because the Torah means knowing the human nature. If you know it, then you can rule. If you don't know it, then you can't rule, because you don't understand what you're interacting with. You don't understand how to create a peaceful environment, and then that means that it won't work out well. It won't do good. So there's a truth that you're trying to discover. It's not just who says a nicer word. It's what is real, what actually drives at the nature of things, so that you can have a better experience, so that you can know what you need to do while you're still here. That's the key. How does the seriousness of a mission allow for so much pleasure, joy that you are saying is the purpose? Isn't it more likely to lead to a quiet contentment than ecstatic joy? It's serious because we've lost our way. So in fact, what makes it so serious is the amount of pain that's become involved in the experience. Life is very distant from what it should have been. But the relationship with the Creator will only be a healthy relationship when it's a relationship of joy. All other relationships are broken relationships. They're relationships that our nature is not satisfied with. And when our nature is not satisfied, our spirit cannot be alive. We can't sing and dance when we're broken. And so, while we're now going through the suffering, it's extremely important that we reduce suffering and we find joy. And even though it's a catch-22, where do we start? Do we find joy while we're still broken? How can we find joy if everything is still broken? And if we stop how can we stop the brokenness if we don't have joy? So it's a bit of a work. It's a bit of a predicament, and that's why many people just remain in their cycle of suffering. They remain in their cycle of pain because they've gotten addicted to those chemicals. This is what they know, and this is the only cycle that they're used to. They don't know how to break it. They don't know how to get out of it. But the relationship that we have with the Creator while we're in such an experience is by definition going to be one of struggle, one of not a close friendship, not a relationship of pure love. And that means that we're not having access to what life has to offer. So we're going through our life, but we're not really alive. We're not really living it. Our true state, our real state, is a state of joy. So we have to find pleasure. We have to find a way to do it, even though it's very difficult, because this is the only way that we have any chance of realizing a deep relationship with the Creator. And realizing that relationship while we are still in our bodies, realizing that relationship while we are still alive, is the key to our future, is the key to the future of humanity. The more we can create healthy feelings, healthy emotions, healthy understandings about life and pass that on to the people around us, the easier life is going to be in the future for them and for humanity in general. So this is a struggle. It's not simple, it's not easy, but because life is so serious, because life is so important, that's why we have to find ways to have pleasure. We have to find ways to find joy, because we have to turn the cycle from being a cycle of suffering, a cycle of pain, a cycle of fear that motivates us, to having a cycle of joy, a cycle of pleasure, a cycle of peace. This is within our nature. We can go either way. But to switch between the two, to switch from the pain to the pleasure, from the pleasure to the pain, is a very difficult transition. And so that's part of a spiritual awakening. That's maybe one of the most difficult parts, is to be able to convert our motivating chemicals, our transmitters, what keeps our brain going, to go from that fear mode, from the fight or flight response, into the relaxation mode, into the joy and bliss mode. It's a different mode in the brain, and we have to practice it until we can learn how to live there. But when we live there, we have a much easier time having the attributes of the Creator, behaving in the attributes of the Creator, being kind, being gentle, being forgiving, being considerate. All these things are going to be much easier for us when we're in the cycle that's motivated by joy and pleasure. When we're in the cycle of fight and flight, we're in the cycle of stress, we're in the cycle of everything is not good enough, it's extremely difficult not to become angry, not to become bitter, not to become depressed. So this is something that life requires of us, as difficult as it might be. Because it's so serious, because it's so important, that's why we can't lose. We can't allow ourselves to just suffer through it. That's not the right way to do it. That's not going to give us the proper results.